La
All right. Thank you, Amir. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to another segment of pitchIN's live sharing session. My name is Shamin, and I will be your host this evening. So this session is going to be a little bit different from our usual pitchIN Thursdays, as today we get up close and personal with the founder and CEO of Igotopia, James South. So we are also very happy to have a special guest with us, and he is Tuan Haji Burhanuddin Muhammad Radzi, an Igotopia investor who has now the distinction of being the single largest investor in any deal in equity crowdfunding in Malaysia. So Tuan Haji Burhanuddin is actually no stranger to Malaysia and especially in the animation industry. So many of you will know him to be the man behind Upin and Ipin, the much loved and one of the most successful animation series, not just in Malaysia, but also in other Southeast Asian countries. So before we hear from James and Haji, just a quick introduction to pitchIN for those of you who are new here. So pitchIN is one of the registered market operator that is currently operating under the supervision of Securities Commission. Since our first campaign in 2016, we have witnessed more than 5,000 investments being made and have successfully helped about 110 companies raise a total of more than 170 million ringgit, making us the leading equity crowdfunding platform in Malaysia. So pitchIN has also recently released our annual Ecf report, and it is now available on our website. So please do check it out if you're interested to find out more about us. So for today's session, I will be asking some questions to James and also to Haji to find out more about Icotopia's Ecf campaign here at pitchIN. So towards the end, we will be opening the session to the audience. So if you have any questions, please feel free to either use the Q&A column if you are joining us from Zoom, or if you are joining us from Facebook, you can also leave your questions in the comment section. All right, so I know James must be very excited to share about his business with you. So just a very quick introduction about Igotopia. Igotopia is the holding company with wholly owned subsidiaries, Gecko Digital Global Limited and Igo Trip Sendirian Berhad. Gecko Digital is Asia's leading virtual reality agency, and in only 6 years, it has grown to become the leading player in the world of VR marketing for luxury tourism. So Igotopia is currently live on pitchIN, and to date, they have raised just shy of 6 million ringgit for their Ecf campaign. So this means that although Igotopia has about 20 more days to go for their Ecf campaign, they have actually already surpassed their minimum funding target and have successfully raised 140% of what they initially set out to raise. So, James, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, and I hope you're ready. Maybe you can just say a few words about yourself and also what is it that you do at Igotopia?
Sure. Charmaine, listen, thank you for putting this together, and happy to share with people the success that we're enjoying at the moment, and have been with Burhan since he decided to pledge and come along. But it's been a wild journey. So it started with Gecko Digital, which was a production house for photography and video for hotels in Bali, and ended with us creating a curriculum for VR photography and empowering local talent into how to do production and post-production on VR. And that allowed us to work with more hotels than anyone else. I think to date, we've got about 500 active hotels that use our software and services across Southeast Asia and South Asia, and work with more corporates, so the big hotel chains like Marriott, Wyndham, Hyatt, Kempinski, and get onto those preferred supplier schemes. So as we scaled our marketing operations and our sales into different areas, we were approved by the big hotel chains in those areas. In 2018, I decided to work in countries where tourism makes an outsized contribution to GDP and where ADR and room rates are the highest in the world. So countries like Maldives, which have now become famous, not just because of luxury, but one thing that COVID's taught us is that space is the new luxury, and whereby we're creating these phenomenal virtual tours that lend themselves to space and how people inherit those dimensions and how they exist in those environments before they've even gone on holiday. So long story short, my entire vision was not to create something that was better in terms of quality, even though we're producing brochure style photography in VR format, but was to create the distribution channels that owned the distribution to that content. So we had the ecosystem And that gave place to the birth of Igo And Igo is the world's first virtual reality online travel agent. If there's something that the pandemic is also teaching us, it's that immersive marketing is becoming the modus operandi, the brand standard of how hotels and governments can take their property to people before they bring the people to the property when movement is restricted in pandemics. So VR is now taking center stage, and Igo is poised to take advantage of that pent-up demand that we know that's coming for upscale with our 360 VR tours and the booking engine that we've put through this in a world that we see as ripe for this kind of innovation. And since launching for the investment and speaking to wonderful investors like Burhan, one thing that we've realized is that there is an appetite on the demand side for everything that we're doing. People want something disruptive. They want something that's new. When you look at the supply side and you go to the hotels and we're on the front lines telling the hotels what we're doing, they're very excited. So we see an appetite on both demand and supply side. And I think that lies testament to how we've raised so much in such a short as possible time. I hope that makes sense. Is that a quick enough overview?
Yep. All right.
Good.
So thanks, James. Before we proceed to hear more about what Igotopia does, I'm just gonna invite Haji Burhan to maybe say a few words. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with your work, being such a prominent figure in the industry. But if you don't mind, maybe you can just share a little insight about what you do and who you are. I'm sure the audience will really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think people know me in the animation industry. Actually, when I entered this animation industry in 2006, I don't have any experience in animation. I was from the oil and gas sector, so just me and my wife just do this business for fun. But yeah, thank God, it's the most successful intellectual property ever produced by this country. We have our program span from UK to Australia through Netflix, through Disney Channel, and so many platforms. In Indonesia, we are so famous, like their own. So God bless, we are very happy with that. And now, last year, I think I can remember in December, a friend of mine, Matthew, who was the former officer in MDEC. I knew him when he was MDEC before he left MDEC. So he contacted me, he wanted to see me, and he brought me this smooth talking English guy. So he convinced me on his project. But to me, I think the reason why I invested is because with the pandemic, I think all the tourism business become ground level zero. So nothing moving. So everybody dead. So at this time, I think who are most prepared with the most innovative make headways, just like when after the World War II, Aristotle is very smart. He bought all the ship, and he converted into shipping. He become a shipping magnate. It's something like that. That's why I quite agree to invest in this. But the other thing is because James is using VR, virtual reality, is something that I needed it for my theme park. If I build my theme park, there's a lot of interactive thing that I wanted to do, and I need this virtual reality technology. So discussing with James, maybe some of the technology we will bring it into Malaysia, and I will get all our people to train with that. It become the hub of virtual reality. That's the other thing that I'm looking at. Also, the payment system, I'm very interested with that because I already set up a company with the payment system. So there's a lot of integrated with my business that I plan. So that's why I'm not scared to invest with Egorum. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Harji Prahan. So James, being the founder of Igotopia, what was your inspiration behind starting Igotopia? How did it come about?
It really came about because we deliver content to predominantly hotel direct channels. So we publish it to their website, and we see that the bounce rates, so the number of people that go to the first page and leave, is reduced because we're increasing engagement with engaging content and increasing the average time that people spend on websites. So the obvious thought was, why are the big five not doing this? Why is Agoda, Booking.com, Expedia, Traveloka, Hotels.com not doing this? And the reason is because we are the only ones that could do it. We had amassed the biggest library of VR assets in Asia. And if anyone should do it, it had to be us, because we had that first market mover advantage. We had the springboard of having this content already developed for the last 5 years through our partnerships with tourism boards and hotels. And it was just, for me, it was logical progression. It was, there is a market demand for this on the direct side. So we have to build the indirect side with our own OTA.
All right. So, what was the problem? What is the problem that Igotopia is aiming to address when it came into the scene, and how big of an issue was it for the industry at the time?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really topical question, isn't it? Because again, it goes back to this idea that at the moment we've got movement control orders in place, and what immersive VR does is it puts people in the property before they've been to the property. And there is no better time to be releasing this. This is what Berhan was just saying with his World War II example, is that people have said to us, you're crazy. Why are you releasing an OTA in a pandemic ravaged industry where hospitality is on its knees? And I said, there is no better time to do this. This is when disruptive channels come through, because for years people have said, if my system is not broken, why do I need to fix it? And what we do is we think, actually, the entire system is broken, and we want to find a way that we can revolutionize the way that people experience bookings before they've arrived at their resort. And that gave place to, that was the major problem that we're trying to answer with virtual reality and with iGoRoom.
So in that case, how do you see that Igotopia? How do you intend for Igotopia to revolutionize and change the scene in luxury travel industry? Especially post-COVID, perhaps.
Yeah, I find it funny. I mean, I speak with my CMO and my COO and CCO on a daily basis, and we always use the same examples. But it kind of, if you can assimilate it to the way that Kodachrome was replaced by color photography. If you then say, well, look, color photography, if you look at websites, they were small thumbnail images and in 2000, and it was all text. And in 2010, those images were about 40% bigger. Now, if you look at a website, it's all image. And what we realize is that people engage with image and they don't engage with text. It's almost the ADHD way of buying products. And if we look at 360, our motto is, look, if a picture tells 1,000 words, our virtual tours tell the rest of the story. And I think when you say, how are we going to revolutionize? The way that we assimilate it is, we expect people in 5 years to be looking at static images and they swipe left and they swipe right, because they expect that the normal modus operandi, how we book rooms, is going to be in 360 and virtual tours, because they've got a better understanding of the property. So once, we don't know what we need until we've been delivered what we have. And I think that's the whole reason why we're developing this, is because I can clearly see the future with the VR company that I've had. I know that VR is taking center stage, and logically it makes sense to me that it has to be done by a VR company with the biggest amount of assets that is working towards indirect channels and bookings. So I hope that answers your question.
All right. So just perhaps more general question about your company. How does Igotopia generate its revenue? What are your business models?
Sure. So there's 3 distinct revenue streams. There is one where we will be offering for new openings of hotels, we will be offering flash sales. So for a time limited offer, you can buy a hotel room in VR using the 360 as the front end at a discounted price for a travel window where you can recoup that travel anywhere between 12 and 24 months, more akin to a voucher system. And then we've got another system that is more akin to a standard OTA operation. So you have dynamic connectivity to the hotel's room rates, and we sell them on a by the night or by the package room. We have another company, so one of the wholly owned subsidiaries, which is Gecko, which does the R&D and the VR, is constantly making forays into creating new virtual reality platforms and virtual reality marketing for tourism boards and hotels. So we've got flash sales, standard OTA method, and the R&D and VR company that has all the contracts with the hotels to do photography and production in VR.
All right. So does that mean that, travelers will be able to book for rooms through your platform that you are developing?
Absolutely. So it'll be a fully loaded integrated system whereby you can be in a room, you can search it from, you can look at the hotel from an aerial drone 360, you can go in a room, and we were the first company in Asia to start doing underwater virtual tours. So if you're looking at hotels in the Maldives, you can go and dive in immersive reality into the local reef and see what the local reef looks like and go to the manta cleaning station. So it is completely revolutionary, not only in its UX and UI, but the type of content that it promotes.
I see. Well, that's very exciting. So, just to be curious, would this be like a phone app or a web-based, or do you plan on having both?
It's going to be both, and it's going to be on two of the major operating systems. So it's going to be on iOS and Android. We're going to do a dual launch for this, and then we're going to have the web app as well. So website and phone app.
All right. So I know that you have mentioned some of the hotels that you're working with, particularly those in the Maldives. Maybe you want to share with us a little bit more about maybe some of the hotels that you are currently working with, or those that you have plans to partner with.
Yes, so I mean, we spent the last 5 years mapping. We've done 110 hotels in VR out of 127 in the Maldives. So at the moment, we spent the last 3 months building the content, also the contracts around the content. We've signed up some of the biggest resorts in the world. We've got 3 parts of the app. One is the VIP section, where we show resorts that are some of the most phenomenal that you could travel to. And then we've got the kind of standard upscale luxury section, where we're selling almost every hotel in the Maldives and a lot of hotels that we're now doing in the Seychelles as part of our initial rollout phase. So as we introduce new source markets, we also roll out new destinations. To begin with, it's predominantly a staycation OTA for Malaysia and an OTA for the Maldives, with the UK and Malaysia as source.
All right. So am I right to say that for the time being, you are partnering with resort type at in places like Maldives and Seychelles? Do you have plan to perhaps come to a little bit like places like Bali or even Malaysia? Do you have plans for that?
Yeah, so even in our first launch, we've got some fantastic hotels in Bali that we're launching with. Again, it's not an FIT model whereby you've got thousands of hotels in any one location. It's the best cherry-picked hotels that we've stayed in, where space is the new luxury, and that we think are really quirky, high-end 5-star. So, resorts that range from Srivijaya in the Maldives to Kempinski Apurva in Bali, and all of the other resorts that we've got behind it. But they're really cherry-picked, curated journey into Asia's top 100 hotels that we see.
All right. So we know that Igotopia was established a couple of years back. Maybe you want to explain a little bit about how did Igotopia do? How's the performance of Igotopia in the past few years?
Yeah, so Igotopia was actually established in December last year. It was the holding company. But what we did is I folded the VR company and all of its IP and assets into the holding company. So it became a wholly owned subsidiary. But Igo Room is an app that's now in beta and about to launch in September. Igotopia is the holding company, kind of like the housing unit that has Gecko Digital and Igo Room underneath it. But the revenue driver has really been Gecko Digital up to date, where we've had amazing traction. So over the space of from when we launched in 2013 to our last accounts in 2019, we saw about 100% year-on-year growth in terms of revenue. We saw our customer base almost double each year, and we maintained a gross margin of around 58% over those 5 years. So it's been phenomenal traction and growth, and one that I think we've all been very excited to be a part of, and now seeing the birth of Igo as its sister company and the B2C indirect selling channel for these rooms in VR is something that we're all watching very keenly. Especially as I think one of the things that I really like that Burhan mentioned was, you know, you've got Traveloka that came out of Indonesia. You've got Agoda that was born out of Thailand. You've got Booking.com that has its head offices now for APAC in Singapore. And yet in Malaysia, there isn't a unicorn in terms of travel that's come out in Malaysia. And this is what I think I'm sharing Burhan's excitement with. We're all very excited to see something come out in Malaysia that will challenge the luxury escapes out of Australia and Traveloka out of Indonesia.
All right. So what would you say that Igotopia is doing differently that gives you, you know, the competitive advantage in the luxury tourism industry?
Well, I mean, I think the elephant in the room, the obvious one is the front end. It's the 360 in VR. Again, if my CMO was on the line, he'd probably laugh and shun this out because I use this in examples, but it's the easiest way to get people to reference and understand how we compare ourselves to recent models or unicorns that have exploded. And the one that I use always is Tinder, because Tinder was raising money in a climate where dating apps were completely the norm and it was saturated. And it was very difficult for them to raise money. And what they predicted was that the UX and UI of how I swipe left and right to choose the person, stranger I want to meet in a bar or a restaurant, is going to determine the value of that app. It's all determined and underpinned by the UX and the UI. It's something completely novel, and it now changes the way that you would select a stranger to go on a blind date with. And I think that without devaluing what Igo Room is, because it is the luxury segment, it's not popular dating apps, but in the same sense, the UX and the UI, the way that you tour through rooms and get a better understanding of that booking process and how I exist in that environment is going to be the determinable factor on how and where I choose to go on holiday for my next luxury trip.
All right. So we now know that Igotopia is looking to raise a maximum of 8.2 million ringgit. How do you plan to utilize the funds that you receive during this ECF campaign? What are the plans you have to grow the company?
Yeah, so it's a delicate balance between marketing and OPEX and CAPEX costs. Most of it is operations and marketing. When you release something completely novel like this, we need to get the name out there. That has to be split between PPC, digital, offline, online, social media marketing. So most of it's taken up by operation expenses and marketing.
All right. Thanks, James. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Right. I now also have a couple of questions for Haji Burhan. So just to share with the audience, previously the record for a single investment was 1.5 million ringgit, and that was for another campaign for sales candy. So Haji Burhan, you are now the single largest investor on an ECF deal. What is your comment on startups based in Malaysia? You know, what do you think companies should do in order to attract investors like yourself?
They should sell something unique. So Igotopia is something different because they come in and look into their business. There's a lot of synergy with my business that I can tap in some of the technology for my business. So all these startup, they are looking for crowdfunding, and they should look for investors who have some interest in their product. I don't think you can get a real investor who want to put big investment in something they don't have benefits to it.
All right. So I know you have mentioned your theme park, like the plans you have for your theme park. Would you be able to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I've been planning the theme park since we started. I think since 2014. Uh, I engaged a company from Australia called Sanderson to do uh, the viability of the project. And when we pitched it to MAHB in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, MAHB agreed to allocate us 200 acres of land in front of the F1 circuit. But the problem is we have to find our own investment. So I think I've been to all the government agencies, especially Hazana. I told them, you invest this because it is a Malaysian product and we have to work it together, all that. It's normal in Malaysia. People don't believe in their product. So nobody listened to what I wanted to do. So in the end, you will see Legoland in JB rather than Upin Land. But we have been working for quite some time to convince people to do it. But I think now we are ready to do it very soon because if I want to build it, I don't have to borrow anybody money. We get what they call FPI, foreign uh, participation in investment. So we might build the theme park very soon. So we have been working with it. Okay.
And how do you plan to, work together with James on this?
Okay, my first theme park, if I build it, it have to be it's an indoor theme park. So hopefully this year we can start building our headquarters building somewhere in Shah Alam. So we have planned inside the headquarters building, we will build our indoor theme park. So this indoor theme park that we have in mind is mostly interactive. So when it's interactive, we need to use a lot of this VR, virtual reality. That's the forte of James. So I've been discussing with James if this project uh, kick off. So it looks like I have to borrow the expert and move the operation to KL, where I will, just like what I did with Copa, we just take the local young graduate, we train them to be the expert. So I think now I'm very proud because Le Copa is one of the most well-known animation studio in Asia. Uh, and when I started, all the boys just graduated from university. So a lot of people complaining we don't have enough talent. But I told them, if you don't train, where you want to get the talent? So most of these companies, whether they are foreign companies or local companies, they want people who are expert immediately. So what they do, they go and snatch from the established company, give some a few hundred ringgit more money. But luckily, most of my staff, because that's the only company they started work after they graduated, they have a lot of heart with the company. So if you put a few hundred ringgit above their current salary, they don't go. They will stay, and they are very loyal, and they are very proud. So I also wanted to build this VR industry. If I build my theme park, I think I need another 200 to 300 content makers to do it. So there's a big opportunity for Malaysia.
Right. So since we're talking about the plan for your theme park, we actually have a question from our audience. He would like to know whether you intend to open a theme park business in Johor.
Yeah, we have been discussing about this place. Actually, we were invited to replace Hello Kitty in Putri Harbour. Uh, uh, I think last year, sometime in the middle of last year, we have been proposing to them a certain amount of investment that they need to invest before we agree to go into that place. But unfortunately, what they offered to me is only 30% what I wanted. And we are not cheapskate. I don't give a damn. If you don't give me enough investment, don't ask me to come. Don't talk to me. So what I'm looking instead of I want to go in there. Once I got all this money, I might buy the whole place.
All right. So besides, incorporating AR and VR into your theme park, are you looking to venture applying AR or VR into any other sectors in your business, maybe into your animation?
Yeah, in animation, I think we have the capacity to do the VR. I think there's one been series that we done in 360 degrees. I think Jim have seen it. I shared with you a couple of years ago. We did on VR. But in animation, it's no point to do it because it's so expensive. Uh, when we sell our product, the price is just that. So there's no need for you to venture into VR.
All right.
Unless you are doing film or something, or what is a advertisement for any product, then we might consider to do it. But currently, some of my team, they are capable of doing that. We used to do this VR when we are having our carnival. That's when we showcase uh, our staff capabilities in producing something different from others. Okay.
All right. So we now know that you have, decided is decided to join James in his journey to grow Igotopia, and we also know that you have shared with us how you used to be in oil and gas, and then you have entered animation industry, and now you're investing in a VR company, but it is based in the travel industry. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit about your investment philosophy and what was the reason why uh, you decided to invest in Igotopia?
Uh, Strictly speaking, I don't have an investment philosophy. As long as I see there's an opportunity for it to grow and benefits the people of Malaysia and also my business, I will go. Some people they say I'm crazy because when I was in oil and gas, my former company doing very well, and they are about to go for listing. So I left the company. With that money, I go into animation. At that time, I think the whole oil and gas industry is laughing at me. They say I'm crazy because I'm one of the star in oil and gas. Suddenly, I go and do cartoon. So they thought I'm thinking like a cartoon. What? But when the oil industry collapsed a few years ago, everybody came to me, you are smart. You left the oil and gas at the right time, and then your cartoon is now a big business. So that's how it is. So I cannot say whether my venture is right or not. But as long I have the, what is I feel that there are potential that I can benefit for the people of Malaysia, I will do it. Okay.
All right. So, James, coming back to you, maybe you want to share with us the team at Igotopia.
Yeah, sure. We've one thing that we found is that there's a phenomenal amount of talent around at the moment, with the havoc that COVID has been wreaking on corporates. So we've managed to scoop up some of that talent, but starting from my executives down, we've got Daniel, who's our CMO, and he sits in the UK office. and he's in control of all of our marketing and budgets for marketing that's going out. He's got alongside him our director of marketing, a girl called Victoria, who we took from, she came from Marriott and a villa management company called Elite Havens after it was acquired. And then we've got operational resource. We've got our COO, who sits in Spain and is in control of all of our project management and our back office development, and also inputting or providing inputs with our financial planning and development. And then we've got Matthew, who is the gel between me and Berhan, who's actually, I met Matthew in a gym about 8 months ago in the Mandarin Oriental gym in KLCC, and he was on the phone talking very loudly about AI and about the company that he was managing or CEO of before this. And we clocked up a conversation, and he soon became our CCO, and having worked in MDEC and the Malaysian government agency, had a phenomenal black book of contacts and said, look, you need to get this story out to people. You need to start meeting some of the people that I know, because we can really drive this. And he was the first person that really subscribed to my vision, along with Dan, our CMO, and Sean, who came later back in December last year as our COO. And then we've got our executive chairman, who is a guy called Michael, and he sits in Australia, and he's got phenomenal experience in hospitality, has owned his own or run his own management company, which he sold in the Maldives, and had two of the most prestigious hotels in the Maldives up until about 2018. I think he took an exit in 2019. So he's really hospitality specific person. And then we've got Poon, who is on our cap table and one of our first investors, and he's the MD of Crow in Malaysia, and he's also been on the board of our advisory board as our chief financial advisor. And then of course we've got Joss, who is the CFO of Unilever APAC, and has come on board and really been helping in terms of our financial advisory with, in terms of financial advisor with our planning and our due diligence into our figures and our valuations, and has also come on board, of course, as an investor. So a really strong mix of industry-specific experience and entrepreneurial flair together. And I think it's just a lovely balance of the right people. And apart from anything else, I really enjoy working with them. I really feel like we've got a good team. As Dan always says to me, it feels like we're in a band, and that band's becoming famous, and you all work together really well, and you've got your compartmentalized instruments that you play. You play your own part in that band, and it just feels like such an exciting project to be a part of, and something that I couldn't manage without the talent I've got around me. But yeah, a lot of entrepreneurial flair and experience.
All right. So we have actually quite a number of questions from the audience already. So I'm just gonna go into those. Okay, so is Igotopia only focused on luxury travel with 5-star hotels and luxury adventures? Do you think Igotopia will also partner with companies like Airbnb?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's well within our scope that we've had one of the biggest OTAs already contact us and ask us for a licensing partnership, which we've turned down because we don't want to cannibalize our footprint into this space by advertising and promoting ourselves as the world's first. So we don't want to leak the content to too many people, but licensing or acquisition is on our scope in the future. We are making strategic partnerships at the moment with some of the big tourism boards, and as I said, hotel operators. Yeah, I mean, we're open to those kind of partnerships. What we are doing at the moment, which is phenomenal, is developing a virtual travel show, which we're looking at doing in partnership with the Seychelles Tourism Board and with Hummingbird, who's a big wholesaler, one of the biggest for the Indian Ocean. So we're looking at different verticals, we're looking at different products and expanding our portfolio, and it's happening very quickly. So I hope that answers that question.
All right. So has Igotopia done any communications with local, I think you have mentioned this actually, local tourism agencies to support companies like Igotopia to grow and to help local industry, especially post-pandemic?
Post-pandemic, yes, we've got something that we're just about to launch, hopefully with the Seychelles Tourism Board. In terms of what we were doing in Malaysia in 2018, we worked with Motac and we went to ITB and we helped with VR destination marketing initiatives to help promote, I think it was the Northern Corridor and Sabah and different parts of Malaysia as part of a Motac initiative a couple of years ago. But yes, that's well within our scope and something we're always looking to do is, I mean, you know, one of the fantastic things about this app that I think a lot of us will see once it launches is it's not just VR to sell space and rooms, but we're also selling the destination. So think of a Lonely Planet with a Mr. and Mrs. Smiths in one, but enveloped in a brand new VR front end is the easiest way that I can explain it.
All right. So we know that, you know, the members of the board and the advisory board are mostly foreign nationals like yourself. So why did you decide for Malaysia to be the location to raise funds?
Yeah, it was simply because I live in Malaysia. and I love Malaysia. I love the people, I love the food, I love the climate, I love the accessibility it's got as a gateway to the rest of Asia, where I have offices already developing and making content for hotels and tourism boards. And the second executive that I took on board was a foreigner who worked in MDEC for many years and felt very similar to myself and is married to a Malaysian with a Malaysian family. And as he opened up his black book to his Malaysian contacts, it just made sense that, you know, it was somewhere that I lived, that I already had operations. We had contracts with hotels already in Malaysia. And if you look at the map of, you know, the digital footprint that OTAs have had in where they've been conceived and propagated from, again, Malaysia hadn't had an OTA that came out of it. And it was just chance that when I met Burhan, there were so many synergies because of what he has. Burhan took me to his post-production, I'd say office, but it was more like 3 warehouses. And it was one of the most impressive operations I've ever seen. And I looked at it and I said, look, I've got a lot to learn from Burhan. And this is something that I'd really like our company to become, which is a global company in Malaysia with the kind of digital footprint that he's already led out with in terms of back office and post-production. That's exactly where we want to be in the next 2 to 3 years.
All right. So you spoke about the first mover advantage, but do you think it's possible for perhaps for, you know, established OTAs to flip a switch and offer VR booking option?
Yeah, so I mean, there's 2 ways that they could do that. One way is they could take the content that hotels have already commissioned and they could put that into their front end. They won't be able to do that with our content, and we are the biggest producer of this content in Asia because we own the IP usage rights and the distribution around that content. So that's the first barrier that's stopping them doing it. The second barrier is, well, for them to change the way they cross their T's and dot their I's goes through months and months and months, if not years of focus groups. They are stuck in this mindset that if it's not broken, don't fix it. And this leads the way for challenger brands to come through and revolutionize and disrupt the foundations with which they built their empires on. And I think that's where we're coming from. And it gets to a point where after 3 to 5 years of traction in an industry with this type of disruptive technology, it would be easier for them to buy and acquire companies like ours. So that is within the remit that we are looking to launch this. Personally, I want to stay on board with this and share my vision and have a legacy behind this vision as long as I can to spread this as far and wide as possible. So I'm not looking at any offers in the very, very near term, but we do understand that that is something that will be coming on the horizon.
All right. Do you see that, are there any limitation in terms of what Igotopia can do and what type of companies you can partner with besides the business that, besides the theme park that Haji Burhan has mentioned? Have you perhaps considered beyond luxury hospitality, like, you know, fine dining restaurants or other tourist attractions?
100%, and without divulging too much detail, we are looking at multiple verticals, and we are looking at going into golf, diving, theme parks, education, multiple verticals, and they would come under the Igotopia group. Yes.
All right. So so we come back to Igotopia's business model. Is it going to be B2B, B2C, B2G?
So Gecko Digital is always B2B. So we will serve corporates and mostly hospitality customers. And we will R&D new products in VR marketing to serve all types of industries and sectors. Igo Room is always B2C. So we will always be serving the end customer with the experience that we're offering that we've built with Gecko Digital. So Gecko Digital production, post-production, R&D, Igo Room is B2C.
All right. So have you validated the solution with potential customers, and are they willing to pay whatever fee that you are charging to use your platform?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're not reinventing the wheel here. What we're doing is we're delivering what already exists in a much better package and format. And these channels have always existed and they've been validated in their own right. So you only need to look at people like Secret Escapes, Luxury Escapes, Voyage Privé, curated journeys into the world's top 100 hotels. They've had phenomenal traction over the last 5 years. We're looking at doing something similar, but with a completely innovative front end. And the main value proposition that, of course, we're always offering is the differentiator between what they do and what we do is we own the content. If you think of Getty Images, if you think of the first static image libraries that were set up 50 years ago, think what they're doing now. This is where we're going. We're looking at becoming a VR publishing house where we own the content and we own the distribution channels, therefore having a complete ring fence around the ecosystem.
All right. So who are the early adopters of your platform? So we know that there are high-end resorts in Maldives and Seychelles. What is the next adjacent market that you are targeting? And perhaps you can share with us the sense of the market value that you plan to seize in the next 3 years.
Yeah, so who is the early adopters? Apart from Burhan. Burhan's an early adopter. But someone that subscribes to the vision and understands the traction that this could potentially have. In answer to your question, we have a full, robust rollout strategy plan built that looks at socio-political movements around easing of borders, as restrictions are lifted in different countries, and then tapping into that pent-up demand as we funnel it to the destinations that we've already created VR around it. The greatest thing with online travel and any digital business is you can always target it at different markets because it's location agnostic in terms of who you market it to.
All right. Thank you, James. Let me just double check. I think that those are all the questions we have for you this evening, but we do have one more question for Haji Burhan. So what are your hopes for Igotopia? You know, since you have now joined the venture, what do you hope for Igotopia to achieve?
Yeah, I want to see a unicorn from Malaysia. That's what promised by James. If it doesn't happen, you know what you go after you.
I go home.
Yeah, we are hoping that something very big will happen. I think we are the first one to start all these MSc, MDEC in this region. I think right now, sad to say, we are behind. A lot of things we are behind with other countries, especially Indonesia now. So that is why we are looking to spark something new. Agree to finance this project so that we can show that we can do something for Malaysia.
Okay. All right. So I think we just have a couple of questions that just came in. So James, what operations are you planning to set up in Malaysia? Would it be a back office or post-productions?
Well, yes. So we're looking at moving our post-production at the moment, which currently resides in Indonesia. We're looking at moving to Malaysia. And again, one of the synergies that I have with Burhan, and we're talking about in the background, But the financial institution, the entire corporate governance is going to be in Malaysia, where we have the holding company and the organizational units that sit underneath that. Their head offices are going to be in Malaysia as well. We've already opened up these companies. As soon as we go into the recovery phase and people come off furlough and people can go back into offices again, we'll start employing in Malaysia.
All right. So for the VR that is offered on the mobile, how much of the experience depends on the 4G or even 5G availability?
Very good question. So what we're seeing actually is that for years we discarded this idea of using VR video because the bandwidth with which you could stream VR video was never enough for 4G. But what is happening is 5G, and I'm in Dubai at the moment where 5G is everywhere now. You can play 5G, 12K video, 8 to 12K video in VR through 5G with zero streaming difficulties and zero lag. And this is completely revolutionizing the way that we sell experiences through our app. I don't want to divulge too much again, because it's really exciting what we're about to launch. But there is nothing static about this app. This app is entirely made up in 360 tours to sell rooms and VR video to sell experiences. And what 5G has allowed us to do is to bring in the VR video experience element.
Okay, so what are the group's financial projections over the next 3 to 5 years?
So we've got steady growth. We're looking at around 1.8 million US dollars this year. And most of that is made up of tapping into the pent up demand for our source market, going to our main destination markets. And then we've got steady growth over the next 5 years, where we're looking at 30 to 40% year on year.
Okay, we have a questions. All right, so where do you see Igotopia compared to Local?
Local. I'm not familiar with Local. I need to probably spend. Local is
Local. Local.
LOKALOC. Local.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that term. What does that term mean?
All right. I think perhaps it is something that you can check out.
Right. Is it okay, I can check it out. Local.
All right. I think, let me just double check. Okay, I think those are all the questions. Maybe perhaps a question to sum up your presentation. What is the long-term goal for you, James, that you see in Igotopia?
Long-term goal is to deliver an entirely different, revolutionary booking experience that is akin to, we'd like this idea of a newer normal or a better new normal. Once we've moved forward and we've progressed to what we feel now is the new normal, we never go back to the old. And that's what we want to be, is we want to be that groundbreaking, pioneering booking system for how people book rooms with a better new normal.
All right. Okay, I think we just have a question that just came in for Haji. So what is your guiding principle when investing in areas that you are perhaps not very familiar with? And this is true to your unconventional ventures in yet to boom animation industry then, is it?
Yeah, I just invest when I feel that I want to invest. That's all.
So just go with your gut feeling then.
Yep, because I don't take a loan. It's all my money. So if I feel that, I believe there's a potential. Not everything that I invest make money. Some I lose, but I don't tell everybody. The only thing that I tell everybody when I'm successful, that's all.
Okay. All right. Okay, so those are all the questions we have for the both of you, James and also Haji Burhan. Thank you very much. So for those of you who are watching, if you're interested in investing in Igotopia, they are now live on pitchIN and they have about 20 more days to go for their campaign. They're aiming to raise a maximum of 8.2 million ringgit, with its minimum lot size being 3,569 ringgit. So before we end the session, I would like to invite James and also Tuan Haji Burhanuddin to perhaps you can say a few words and encourage the audience to join you, Haji Burhan, in your journey together with James. So James, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. I mean, I always assimilate it to this idea that a boat is sailing and we need to get on this boat before it leaves the harbor. And it's, I mean, if there's ever a time to come on board as a retail investor now is the only time to do it. So we encourage everyone to do it at this opportunity, because this boat is leaving the harbor and we have got huge ambitions and visions in front of us. And happy to have anyone on board that shares our vision.
All right, Haji Burhan, what about you? What would you say to the audience to have them join you together with James?
Yeah, this venture is something very exciting. Who knows? It will become another unicorn, like James say. So this opportunity for you to come in. Maybe some of them don't know what is unicorn. Just like something like Facebook, YouTube, something people say it's no future, but suddenly it goes very, very big. Who knows if we decided to list it in New York stock exchange, maybe we can become billionaire with only 3,000 ringgit. So I'm advising those who want to venture, just subscribe to pitchIN for our company. Thank you.
Very good.
All right, so we have now reached the end of the session. Thank you again, James, and thank you, Haji Burhan. Thank you for joining us this evening and also sharing with us your exciting business, also your plan for your theme park, Haji Burhan. And yeah, so also thank you to those of you who have joined and tuned in with us this evening. So once again, if you're interested in investing in Igotopia, please log on to our website at equity.pitchin.my, where you will be able to find more information on the investment deals. So do stay tuned to our Facebook posts and our weekly newsletters for more updates. And until then, on behalf of pitchIN, thank you for your support and stay safe. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.